guys. Come on in. I got into music as a kid. My dad was always playing records in the basement. My dad was like the family DJ. He loved Motown, funk, soul music, R&B, and rock. Back then, you know, we were kids, and I don't want to give away my age here, but back then when we listened to music on the radio, it wasn't that the stations weren't set by genre. So you could hear an Elton John record followed by a Commodore's record, you know, followed by Tiny Tim. It just was different back then. The radio stations weren't so formatted. So I got a dose of music early on, a real wide range, because my parents listened to music all the time, and my dad played 45s in the basement all day, all night long, sometimes keeping us up all night before we went to school the next day. He's pretty famous for that, actually. I ended up doing electronic music. I started collecting 12-inch disco records, and I love getting the 12-inch mixes of disco. And from there, I really got into Yazoo and Style Council and Depeche Mode, New Order, things that were especially on Sire Records, and things produced by Flood. So I loved all of the English dance music too, especially Naked Eyes and Paul Weller. I really like those bands, and I always tried to collect the newest 12-inch that was coming out. I was in the record store probably 2 or 3 times a week buying 12 inches. I started doing parties in the late 80s in the Baltimore, Washington area, and we were doing electronic music. Unlike a lot of things that were going on back then, electronic music was just starting to catch on, and we started doing underground parties in warehouses, and we started bringing DJs over like Carl Cox on a bi-weekly basis. When I first started doing events in the Baltimore, Washington area, we were starting out with maybe 300 to 500 patrons, but after about a year, we were doing anywhere from 500 people to 3,000 people in our warehouse space every other week, and we were constantly bringing in new acts and new DJs from all over the world to play the events. And I was one of the resident DJs, and I initially started on promotions, but I became one of the residents in my own events, and I started DJing alongside these people, and I started traveling from the Baltimore, Washington area further and further towards the West Coast. So I started out in Baltimore, and then I would go to Kentucky, then we moved further over and further over and further over, and next thing I know, I was going back and forth from the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area to California on a monthly basis, and then after that I started getting outside of the USA. So some of the labels that I've worked with everyone from Sony to Warner Brothers, doing remixes, and remixed everything from Ashley Simpson to Billie Holiday. I think that was probably one of the more challenging remixes they did. I was included in this compilation to remix Billie Holiday, and it was so hard trying to find a happy medium. Because it's funny, when I read the iTunes reviews, some people were so upset that we remixed Billie Holiday, but I think that was definitely one of the more challenging remixes I did, and I really enjoyed it. I remixed All of Me, and it came out pretty good, actually. Usually when I get started on a new project in a studio and or a remix, which I seem to do a lot of remixes. I love to do more original work, but it seems like I'm always bogged down with a lot of remixes. But usually when I get in the studio, I usually start out with the beats on my track first. I usually get a good bottoms, good kicks, and then I work on the bass lines, percussions, well, the tops I like to call them. I call them the tops, the snares and the claps and cymbals. And I get my vocals, and I usually chop the hell out of my vocals and put a lot of effects on them. I love tweaking the sounds out. And usually add a few vocal snips of my own. It's pretty much how production goes for me when I'm doing remixes, working in the studio. Toontrack's products such as Easy Mix and their drum sounds fit into my sessions with ease. The software is easy to use and it sounds killer. It seems I'm always on a crazy deadline, so it's nice to be able to get sounds I like as quickly as possible. The drums are really crisp and clear. I can easily tweak them to get whatever sound I want, and I like to be able to just sit down and be able to get to the sound, the desired sound, which is always a challenge in the studio, as quickly as possible. The presets I recently did for Toontrack really show off the versatility of Toontrack's products. You can tweak the sounds to fit whatever style of music you're working on, from the hardest dance to country music if you need to. It's all right there in the interface. You can get really basic sounds if you want, but if you really want to, take it up a bunch of notches, a lot of the presets, especially ones that I've done, allow you to. This year started out with a bang already. I had a great New Year's Eve. I played in New Orleans. I just got back a couple days ago from South by Southwest. If you haven't been or heard of South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, which is supposed to be the live music capital of the world, it is awesome. I did a show there with this guy Beardy Man that does the beatbox, and he samples live beatbox and makes the tracks right there on the fly. It was really, really cool. I saw a lot of interesting acts over there. It's great because it's one of the few places where you can meld the dance music, and there's a ton of bands playing at the same time. You might go over here and see Afrojack, and right next door is the Foo Fighters are playing. So I just got back from doing the South by Southwest. That was really cool, and I hope I get to do that every year. Right now I'm working on a new mix CD, and I went back to my roots on my new mix CD, which is going to be on Dirty Fabric out of Chicago. This my new CD is called One Night in the Disco, because I used to love playing disco house, and disco house seems to be making a comeback. So the new mix CD has a lot of disco and disco influenced sounds in it, and I'll have a couple of original records on there by myself.